On March 23, 2021, the 400-meter-long Ever Given wedged itself diagonally across the Suez Canal, completely sealing off one of the world's most vital maritime arteries. Measuring 400 meters long and 59 meters wide, the vessel has the capacity to carry over 20,000 containers, placing it among the largest moving objects on the planet. The location made the grounding a global crisis. The Suez Canal provides the shortcut for 12% of all global trade. Within days, a massive physical traffic jam formed. Over 400 ships were forced to drop anchor, unable to pass through the blocked channel. This chart shows the resulting economic hemorrhage. Global trade lost an estimated $9.6 billion every single day the ship remained stuck. The crisis proved that the modern supply chain is incredibly fragile, highly optimized for speed, but dangerously dependent on a few specific geographic choke points. Publicly, the blame was immediate. A sudden sandstorm with 40-knot winds had supposedly blown the massive ship off course. Yet, megaships like the Ever Given are engineered specifically to maintain control in adverse weather. Wind was a factor, but rarely is it the sole cause of a grounding this severe. Investigators began looking past the weather, uncovering evidence of a chain of human failures, including extreme crew fatigue and critical communication breakdowns on the bridge. The incident suggested that even the most advanced maritime technology remains vulnerable to a collapse in the human operating system. Moving through a narrow channel creates the squat effect and bank suction. Pressure differences pull the ship toward the banks, stripping away maneuverability. These forces suck the stern to one side, swinging the bow into the opposite wall. Navigating these forces requires total mental clarity. But the crew, primarily Indian nationals, were operating under the extreme strain of pandemic-era maritime protocols. COVID-19 had paralyzed crew rotations, forcing sailors to stay at sea for months beyond their contracts, leading to severe physical and mental exhaustion. Despite these conditions, the operating company failed to monitor fatigue levels or provide the psychological support necessary for a crew in isolation. By the time the Ever Given reached the Suez, the crew was navigating one of the world's most demanding waterways with severely impaired cognitive performance. This pressure was compounded by a cultural barrier on the bridge. The Indian crew had to coordinate with local Egyptian pilots, whose instructions were critical to transit. As the weather worsened, decision-making authority became unclear. There was fatal confusion over who was ultimately in command of the maneuvers. The investigation pointed to a failure in leadership. The captain did not assert his authority to overrule the pilots and delay entry into the canal until the storm passed. The result was a 6-day engineering crisis. Teams worked around the clock with specialized dredgers and heavy machinery like this excavator to clear the mud from the bow. On March 29th, the combined force of the salvage fleet and a rising spring tide finally refloated the ship. It took a week of frantic engineering and billions of dollars in resources to undo the consequences of a few minutes of human error. While the scale of the Suez blockage was new, the Ever Given had already shown a history of accidents in high winds. In 2019, the vessel was involved in a collision in Hamburg under similar adverse conditions, yet few changes were made to its operational profile. The industry also lacked simulation training specifically designed for narrow canal navigation during emergencies. The Suez Canal Authority shared the blame, having permitted the passage despite warnings of extreme weather that should have triggered a delay. The maritime system was essentially primed for failure, consistently choosing to stick to rigid schedules rather than following empirical safety data. The aftermath forced a legal reckoning regarding who is truly in charge when a pilot is aboard a vessel. The findings reinforced a critical rule. The ultimate authority and the final decision to proceed rest solely with the ship's captain, regardless of pilot advice. Evergreen responded with immediate policy shifts, implementing strict delay protocols based on objective risk assessments rather than schedule pressure. Across the industry, there is a renewed focus on crew readiness, including mandatory fatigue monitoring and better mental health infrastructure. The grounding of the Ever Given proved that global trade is only as resilient as the people steering it. Protecting the supply chain requires protecting the well-being of the human element.